All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Within Tolerance. This is episode 28, and Dylan and I have a guest this week. We have Jake Yates from Yates Precision. He has some really awesome products, and he's really interesting page, really interesting products, and I'm really excited to have him on. So I guess, Jake, do you want to just start? How did you get into manufacturing? How did you get into machining? And just take it from there.
Yeah, first of all, guys, thanks. Thank you for having me. I've listened to every episode. I really enjoy it. And, thanks to Dylan and Payton for putting this podcast out. I know it's a lot of hard work and can be a thankless job. So first of all, thank you guys. I know a lot of people enjoy listening to it, myself included. So thank you. Secondly, I just want to open with I am the complete opposite of your last guest, Andrew Henry from Henry Holsters. I have zero artistic or musical ability. I did not go to school to build guitars. My wife probably yells at me at least once a day for my terrible singing, and I hate hot and spicy food. So if you guys are tuned in and are expecting to have something similar to their last guest, maybe check out the Joe Rogan podcast or something, because it's not going to be the same. But one similarity with Andrew is I cannot stand practical machinists. So when he mentioned that, I was like, okay, we're in the same boat. And I'm someone with a fairly decent machining background, and I can't stand the treatment that people get over there. I will go there if I'm looking for something specific, but yeah, like he said, it's the complete opposite of the instant machinist community. So I'm glad I found the instant machinist community. And again, thank you, and thanks for having me. So
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. I know it's definitely my pleasure to co-host with Peyton. So we really appreciate you coming on. And so you mentioned you have a really rich background in manufacturing. How did you get started in that? And we definitely have some questions about your day job and your business, and then let's start from the bottom and work up from there.
Sure. So I went to Rochester Institute of Technology in upstate New York for mechanical engineering. At that time, I probably couldn't even spell CNC, didn't know what it was, had no idea, and which is kind of, looking back on it, is kind of odd, because I know they have a lot of Akumas there in their machining center. I was just never exposed to it. I thought I wanted to be a design engineer, which now I often feud with design engineers, so it's kind of ironic. But anyways, I went to school for mechanical engineering. And when I first got out of school, I'm originally from southwestern PA, which is where I currently live. When I first got out of school, I was, typical college kid applying anywhere and everywhere to try to get a job and start paying back student loans. And I actually got a job as a maintenance foreman in an underground coal mine. So that was my first job as a mechanical engineer. I was going underground every day for 9 hours a day, swinging shifts. I was a salary guy. I had 8 union mechanics under me, and our job was maintaining and repairing coal miners at a coal mine. So that was my first job out of school.
Wow, that's I'm sure not exactly what you were looking for going to school for mechanical engineering and design work.
Correct. So I worked there for about 2.5 years. I realized I did not want to work there for 40 more years. But as a side note, if you ever get a chance to tour an underground coal mine, do it. It's very eye opening. You'll gain a new respect for those guys that go down there every day. It's whatever temperature it is outside, it's that temperature underground. They're pumping cold air underground at about 1 million cubic feet a minute. So it's cold in the winter and hot in the summer. So it's pretty miserable. So yeah, after 2.5 years, I was doing anything I could to get out of there. So 2 of my buddies that I graduated with were working in Ithaca, New York, at a company that manufactured turbine blades and vanes, mainly for power generation stuff. They had an opening for an engineer, so my wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, not wife yet, we moved up to Ithaca, New York, and that's kind of where I first got into manufacturing. Most of the work we did there was wire EDM, RAM EDM, grinding, and some very basic milling. But I was mostly in wire EDM, which I really enjoyed. The milling we did there, most of it was actually done on Bridgeport Series 1 CNC knee machines. So it was literally take a Bridgeport knee machine, put some servo motors on it, and there's your CNC. And we were actually milling Waspaloy, Inconel on these machines. So it was a very rudimentary intro to milling. So after about 3 years there, my wife and I got pregnant with our first son, and we were both from southwestern PA, so we wanted to get back home. So again, just started throwing out applications left and right, and that kind of landed me where I am today, which my company that I work for is called Perryman Company. It's a very interesting company. The parent company actually produces titanium. So they take it from raw sponge and melt it down and make, your titanium bar, titanium wire. And we sell that titanium mainly to the aerospace and medical industries. So actually, pretty much every aircraft in the air today has Perryman titanium on it, mostly in the fasteners. So we sell a lot of fastener material. And actually, if you listen to Business and Machining, Grimsmo has mentioned Perryman titanium a couple times on there. That's actually where he buys some of his titanium, is Perryman titanium.
Yeah, I when you told me where you worked, I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. And then I did kind of a deep dive on their website, and it's amazing how broad the company is. I mean, everything from material to machining to testing to everything in between.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic company to work for. It's privately owned. Mr. and Mrs. Perryman, they're in their at least 80s now. They're still involved in the business. Their sons have kind of taken over. It's a great family, great company to work for. So that's they got started in 88, I believe, 1988. In 2012, they purchased the facility that I currently work at, which is our forge and fabrication facility. It was already a medical manufacturing company that was kind of going under. They purchased us in 2012. And in 2012, it was a one building facility with some older Mazaks, not too many machines. So from 2012 to now 2020, we are probably right around 100 CNC machine tools, which include Makinos, Hermleys, Morries, Mazaks, and a couple of Doosan's as well. And Dylan, I share your love for Doosan. So
Yeah, we just actually at my day job purchased another Matsura because we were so thrilled with our Doosan. So
yeah,
Oh
so
my
our Doosan's, we don't have any Doosan mills. We have actually our only Doosan's are Doosan mill turns. They're MX 1600s, which I hear great things about Doosan lathes. So I don't want to knock Doosan as a company in general, but their Doosan mill turns are not very good machines. They're cheap, and they're cheap. So
yeah, we've got a bunch of 3-axis or 2-axis lathes work from Doosan, and they've been nothing but bulletproof. But
and
yeah,
that's what I hear. So
yeah.
it wouldn't keep me from buying a Doosan lathe, but I would never buy one of these Doosan MX 1600s, and we are not purchasing any more of those. So that's kind of how we feel about Doosan. But this facility, we have two buildings now. Our lower building does mainly plastics machining, and our upper building does mainly metals machining. So, and we machine all medical implants, hips, knees, vertebrae. And we do both the medical and the plastic component. So the plastic component, think of essentially your cartilage or your bearing surface, and then the metal component is the part that gets implanted to your bone. So
So a lot of PEEK and then titanium for the metal, I'm guessing.
yeah, so our main metals are titanium and 17-4 stainless are probably the two main metals, with some cobalt chrome as well. And then plastics, you're looking at Radel and ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, or UMFI. And so with an implant, you have a trial and then the implant itself. So when you get into surgery, say you're going into a knee surgery, the doctor has a briefcase, well, actually toolbox full of trials, and all they are just different size. They resemble the implant, but they're made out of, so the plastic is Radel for the trial, and the metal is typically 17-4 stainless, because both of those materials can be put in an autoclave, cleaned, and reused. So, and they're just using these to size you up, see what size fits, and then they pull out the Umphy implant for the plastic and the titanium implant for the metal, and that's what gets implanted into your body. So yeah, there's always a trial and then an implant and a plastic component and then the metal component. So it's very interesting. Like I said, we do a lot of knees. Knees and hips are our biggest, and we actually do quite a few vertebrae. So which is a pretty interesting process as well. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into manufacturing. That's where I currently work, and that's actually where I'm currently sitting. As I mentioned to the guys before we pressed record, is my internet connection is also very similar to Andrew Henry Holster at home. So I stuck around at the day job to take advantage of the internet.
So do you mainly program mill turns, or I mean, it sounds like you guys have some pretty fantastic 5-axis machines as well. Like, what's your go-to, or like what are you in charge of at work?
So my position at work is I'm a manufacturing engineer, and what that means here is we're a medical job shop. So we don't design any of the parts that we make. All the big players come to us, and with prints, just like a job shop, except they're all medical components. So they come to us with a new product. It's passed to one of the manufacturing engineers. There's 8 or 9 of us here, and it's our responsibility to take that product from start to finish. So we take the print, we design the process, we program the machine, we design the inspection criteria, the inspection process, and we kind of take it from start to finish. So I typically program mostly mills. I'll get a mill turn project maybe once a year. That's kind of geared. Some of the other guys take more mill turn projects. I just tend to take more of the mill projects. So most of our mills are the Machinos. We have Machino F5s with Pseudocoma tables on top of them.
Oh, wow.
So it's mostly 3+2 stuff. They're capable of doing full 5-axis, but if it's not necessary, we don't do it. Just with the third-party table mounted on top, you deal with some backlash and some blend issues. And medical components need to be essentially jewelry coming off the machine, even though they don't need to be. They need to be. So, excuse me. So I program mostly mills. We just recently, within the last year, purchased 2 Hermle C22s, and those machines are incredible. By far, the best machine I've ever gotten to program and kind of run. I've run through the basics, but it's night and day compared to the Machinos. The Machinos are great machines. The F5 is really a die mold machine. So the rapids are kind of slow. It's not meant to do a lot of tool changes, although we run it doing a lot of tool changes. So the Hermle is just, it's a great machine. So
that's awesome. So are those, I'm assuming all of your machines must be, or for the most part, HSK interface?
yes. So we run pretty much all HSK 63. We have 5 Machino A51 horizontals and 7 Machino PS95 105s, which is kind of like their more robust mill, and those are Cat 40.
Okay. Well, so with access to, such an amazing company that you work for, what made you want to start your own business?
Yeah, so that kind of stemmed from the last job I worked at. While I enjoyed what I did not enjoy who I worked for. So I think most of us have had that boss that aren't really a pleasure to work for, and I didn't want to work for him the rest of my life, or really work for anybody the rest of my life. The idea of creating your own success. The harder I work, the bigger the payout at the end of the day with my own business. that has kind of always appealed to me. And maybe maybe I have an entrepreneurial spirit, within me, but it kind of stemmed from my last job. And then as I started gaining more, manufacturing experience, I just really enjoyed it. So I, I pretty much go straight from here home, hang out with the kids and the family, and then do it all over again out in my shop, or where I'm, and similar to to you, Dylan. I'm sure where it's kind of, you live and breathe it, and it's really just what I enjoy.
Oh yeah, yeah. I definitely empathize with you. I mean, I don't have a full family, no kids or anything, but yeah, it's work and then come home for a little bit and then work and then what little sleep I can get. So
Right,
I'm right
exactly.
there with you.
It's a lot of late nights and early mornings, but I really wouldn't change it for the world. So
Yeah, same. So, that kind of brings up one of our questions, which was how do you balance, day job, your shop, and family time? Because you do have a full, family. You got a wife, two kids. That's quite a big card that you've been dealt, I guess.
yeah, it's not easy. so neither you have kids, I don't believe, and enjoy that time while you have it. Kids are great, but that could be a full-time job in itself, and I have to give my wife a lot of credit. She's essentially a stay-at-home mom. She helps out with the business a lot. But at, you know at Sunday night, after the weekend, I kind of look forward to coming to work for the day to kind of rest. So kids are a lot of work. They're a lot of fun, but man, they're a lot of work. But as far as balancing it, I mean, it's pretty much like I said. I'm here, at the day job until generally 5:30. I get home a little after 6. I hang out with them. Kids typically go to bed between 7:30 and 8. I put them to bed, and then I'm usually out in the shop from 8:15 to midnight most nights, and then pretty much wake up and do it all again the next day. Um, some days it's harder than others, especially if things aren't going well either at the day job or at the shop at home. And I oftentimes think, I don't think it's sustainable. Um, something has to give, either the day or either, essentially go full time at my shop, which is the ultimate goal, or back off on my shop, which I don't want to do. But I can grind it out like this for a while, but it's like I said, it's a grind, and it's weekends to try to get out to the shop as much as I can. But it's a grind, and I enjoy it most probably 95% of the time. But sometimes it's a little much. So but it's fun, and my wife has been helping out quite a bit lately. So I get to spend time with her in the shop, which is great. My kids are getting older, and they're starting to express interest in daddy's shop. So we'll see. I kind of, it'd be nice to have something to pass off to them that they can eventually take over. So that's the ultimate goal, I think.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I have been seeing your wife and kids more on your feed. It seems like when that must be really nice.
Yeah, it is. And, it's nice that she takes interest in what I do, or else it would be a constant battle of fighting for time out in the shop. Instead she's out there with me. So I'm fortunate in that aspect for sure. And on a side note, this is completely not machining related at all, and I was thinking about this the other day, is how quick kids can learn. So my oldest son is just over 3 years old, and when he's born, right, babies are next to useless. They don't do anything. You have to. I mean, they're useless. So
Right. They can't even hold their own head up, let alone.
no,
Yeah.
no, absolutely useless. And so my son turned 3 in September, and he can now. I mean, in that time, he's learned to crawl, walk, feed himself, talk. He's learned to, sadly, operate an iPad. He can drive his Power Wheels better than some people drive a car. And I was just thinking, like, if I had the mental capacity to learn that much in 3 years still, I can't contemplate how much you have to learn in the first few years of your life. And, I mean, it goes it goes a long way. And, when they say, teach kids new languages when they're young, and I could see that. I mean, he picked up English in, a couple months essentially. So it was a complete side note and a random thought I had, but man, I was thinking about it the other day, and it was mind boggling.
Yeah, it would certainly be nice to maintain that sponge brain for the
Right,
rest of your
exactly.
life, you know.
And they are a sponge too. You got to watch what you say, especially the 3-year-old. Oh man, you got to watch what you say.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I have a
So,
couple of friends with kids, and yeah, they pick up on everything good and bad. So
right. So on that note, Dylan, how do you balance I mean, I haven't heard you talk too much about your work-life balance.
Yeah, Dylan.
Poorly. Thankfully, my girlfriend is really understanding. I make a very concerted effort to spend 1 or 2 days, either a full day on the weekend or 2 half days on the weekend, and do stuff with just her and not shop stuff. We plan specific dates and stuff ahead of time. Like I'll find things that I know we both want to do and buy tickets or make time or whatever. It's definitely not easy. Like it's definitely a strain on our relationship, but
Sure.
thankfully she's super understanding and sees how much I love it and the growth that we're having and all that. And so she's, at least for now, very understanding of me, working
Sure.
70, 80 hours a week. So
Would you agree that it's not a sustainable lifestyle for the indefinite future? I mean,
oh no, even if I didn't have her, it wouldn't be
right.
sustainable. I mean,
Yeah,
it
I feel
just,
the same way.
yeah,
I could do it for, no family for a few years, but still it's just not sustainable. But it's, you know, we'll see where the next couple years take me, and hopefully it's, and I'm in the same spot you are, and I've heard you mention that you love your day job, and I do love my day job, and I, I it it'll be a bittersweet day if the day comes where I leave my day job to go full time in my shop, for sure, because I do love it. And there's always days where things aren't going your way, but typically, I mean, I enjoy coming to work, and I'm very fortunate in that aspect.
yeah, no, I'm the same way. And like you kind of touched on it, but had I been working where I'm working now, I'm not sure I ever would have started Proteum.
Right.
Like I was in a very similar place where I did not see my work directly reflect on how much I can make or status or anything like that. And like it just seemed like my no matter how much I put into it, I was never going to get anything back out of it. And so that's what kind of pushed me toward to starting a company. Whereas where I'm working now is the exact opposite.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and I'm the same way. So maybe while I hated some days at my last job, maybe maybe it was a blessing in disguise to kind of kickstart my entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, same, definitely. So speaking of your shop, you going back in your feed, it looks like you started out doing some job shop work with your machine, and then you've now recently jumped into safety razors. So let's kind of talk about both the early stages of your business and then safety razors, how and why, because it's not a usual thing that you see pop up ever, really. I mean, a lot of the safety razors seem like they're designed in America and then mass produced in China and shipped here and sold by the dozen. So
Yep. Yeah, and you're exactly right there. So yeah, I did. I started by doing job shop work, and I still mix some job shop work in every once in a while. I have a couple good customers that I continue to do work for, and I think I'll continue that. I enjoy the job shop kind of arena. It's something new and different. I enjoy the fixturing challenges and things of that nature. But so yes, safety razors. It was an odd one. It was a little over a year ago now, and I have to credit my dad for introducing them to me. He pulled into my driveway one day and said, "Hey, take a look at this." I was like, "All right." And he pulled out this safety razor. I had no idea what it was. I had no idea. I was like, "Okay, what is that?" He's like, "It's a razor." I'm like, "It's a razor? How? I don't understand. Where's the plastic cartridge? I don't get it." So then he kind of started explaining it to me, and he said, "You think you could make that?" I looked at the three components. I was like, "Yeah, I mean, compared to what I typically work with at work, it was fairly straightforward. I mean, there's nothing too complex about the parts." So I started doing some research, and like I said, this was probably last December, so December 2018. And then over the next 3 or 4 months, when I had some free time, I was working on a design for my own safety razor, um, and like you said, Dylan, the majority of what you see out there is designed in the U.S. and then they use metal injection molding. It's typically a zinc metal coated with chrome, and they're cheap, and it's something about a CNC machined product. It has that nice feel, and so I decided, okay, let's try this. And at first, I machined a couple, and I thought, okay, I'll use one of these, maybe a couple of my friends, whatever. And then people started expressing interest in them, and it kind of took off to where I launched a pre-order. This would have been, I think, June of 2019. I launched a pre-order. The pre-order did very well. Delivered all the pre-order, and then I kept getting orders and people asking, are you gonna have more in stock? I was like, okay, I guess I'm gonna run with this. So that's kind of where I am today. I actually, in November, I had a large distributor reach out, and they ordered a large quantity of them that they needed by Black Friday. So in a matter of 3 weeks, I made 100 safety razors, and after that, I was like, okay, I think I can scale this and turn it into something, and that's kind of where I am, currently. And it's been a strange ride, for sure. And having your own product is very nice. I think I've heard you guys talk about this before, and it's just there's so much less stress than your typical job shop work when you own your own product. So if there's no definite delivery dates, okay, I'm a day late to listing these on my website. All right, well, I'm only, it's not a big deal. Whereas, job shop, you're a day late, you're sweating. Like you said, Dylan, you're running to the post office on at 4:30 or at the FedEx at 4:30 when there's supposedly close at 4.
Right.
So there's none of that. So it's nice, and you control your own production, you control your own schedule. So it's a nice change of pace. So, with all the production I've been running, my dad's been very involved in the shop, which has been good. It's nice working with him. He's learned a lot. He actually just purchased a Shapeoko router to play with on his own time, so he's kind of hooked as well in the CNC machining. I'm teaching him fusion, so it's been fun. He helps me a lot with the finishing processes, the deburring, the blasting, the tumbling, stuff like that. So it's been good. It's been a good ride. The order for 100 that I had to get to the distributor by Black Friday was a little stressful, but we delivered them all on time, and I've only heard good things so far. And Dylan, you said you ended up with one of my razors.
Yeah, I actually got one from that big order.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Did you get the brass base plate with it as well?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I think you posted about it, and that day I saw that it was on sale. And I sent it to my girlfriend. I was like, "Hey, you were looking for things for Christmas, hint, hint. Here you go."
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and I heard you say you only nicked yourself one time.
yeah,
Only a little bit of blood, huh?
I'm 2 shaves in, and I'm getting a little better every time. Little less blood this second time. I actually used the brass base plate this second time because I usually go a little longer between shaves than I
Yeah.
probably should, and so having that the hybrid side really helps with that.
Right. Yeah, and that's the plate that I use all the time now is the brass base plate, and that was odd too. I didn't had no intentions of making that, but hadn't seen anything else like that out there, where you have the closed comb on one side and the open comb on the other. There's plates that are open comb or closed comb, but I hadn't really seen both, so I was like, all right, I'll try it, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that as well. So, and speaking to your only nicking yourself a couple times in the first shave, that's way better than I did. It looked like someone, after my first shave with a safety razor, it looked like someone shot me with birdshot. I mean, it was like I had paper towel or toilet paper stuck to me like all over the place. I was like, ooh, I don't know if this is for me. But ever since, it's probably been 8 months since I've cut myself with a razor. So you get better. You stick with it though.
Yeah, I can tell when I get it right. Like it is a much closer shave. It feels better, all that stuff. So I'm definitely I'm in it to win it right now. And it's going to save me. I was a Dollar Shave Club person, so it's going to save
Yeah.
me, $120 a year or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah, the initial investment is more, but you're talking 18 or 20 cents a blade after that. So the initial investment, like I said, is more, but man, in the long run, it pays, and it's also a better shave. You don't get any ingrown hairs, no irritation. So it's typically with like your plastic disposable razor that has multiple blades, the first blade that comes through actually pulls the hair away from your face and out of your skin, and the second blade cuts it, so then it retracts below your skin, and that's where you get your ingrown hairs and your irritation from. So only having one blade, it's a much nicer shave.
Yeah, that makes total sense. But yeah, it's a fantastic product. Like it really is a gorgeous, single piece of, and I love that it's 316. It's got that really nice weight to it. So I definitely applaud you. It's a fantastic design.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
So that actually brings up one of our listener questions. So Jody from Machinist Therapy Hotline, Mayor of Little River, said, machining aside, packaging is often overlooked, but you seem to have hit the bullseye with packaging. How many attempts did it take for you to get it right? And did you ask for customer feedback? How did you land on, because I believe all of your packaging is recyclable or?
Correct. It's all either from recycled material or compostable and recyclable. So it's all, eco-friendly in a sense.
So how did you land on that? How did you come by all of the different pieces of it? Because I've thought of, I don't have my own product yet, but I have thought about like, oh, how do I do this best?
Sure. So first of all, Jody, thanks for the question. In addition to your podcast, I love Machinist Therapy Hotline. It's that's the great thing about all these machining podcasts is they all offer something a little bit different. And Machinist Therapy Hotline definitely offers comedy. So
Definitely.
When I saw this question come up on the list of questions, I just pictured Jody like in his barbecue vest and jandals, just like, yeah, that's some pretty good packaging. So for the packaging, I have to give a lot of the credit to my wife. She kind of took the lead on that. I wanted to go eco-friendly because one of the main reasons safety razors are making a comeback is due to the plastic epidemic that we're kind of seeing. And it's something like people in the U.S. throw away like 2 billion plastic disposable razors a year, and those are going into the landfills. So that's kind of the safety razor movement that you see right now and why they're making a comeback. So I didn't think it made sense to make an eco-friendly product and then ship it in a bunch of bubble wrap and plastic shrink wrap, and I try to be as eco-friendly, outside of work as I can as well. Try to leave as little of a carbon footprint as possible. So I thought the eco-friendly went well with the product. In all honesty, it was a marketing scheme as well. I can market it as, eco-friendly packaging, eco-friendly product. And then I kind of gave that to my wife and she took the reins. And, there's a lot of good eco-friendly packaging available out there. And I've actually started using a lot of it in my job shop stuff as well. So places like Sustainable Packaging Inc., I believe it's called, and Eco Enclose, they all offer very good eco-friendly alternatives to packaging. Those are the two main ones that we use. We had lots of samples delivered. She posted a lot of Instagram stories. I posted some Instagram stories looking for feedback. We got some great feedback, and we continue to get good feedback on our packaging. Every once in a while, we'll see a review that says, I want my packaging to be reusable, to where they can put the razor back in it. And I understand that it's, with the shredded paper in there and stuff, it's not really a reusable packaging. So we're kind of looking at that, seeing if we can get some sort of eco-friendly reusable packaging as well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I said, I have to give a lot of the credit to my wife, and I think the packaging did turn out very well, but it's still a constant evolution. We're always we're always looking to improve. So over the next few months, you'll probably see some slight changes in our packaging, but we're going to stick with the eco-friendly theme for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciated it. I mean, everything was well packed, and I like the little hidden compartment behind it with the card for the your specific model and all that. I thought it was really well done. So
yeah, that was another thing that I hadn't really seen. I come a little bit from the knife industry. I used to mess around with. I actually used to forge some knives and early on. And I followed John Grimsmo for a while, and you see the individual serialization in the knife industry a lot, and I think that people appreciate that. It makes it kind of original to you. While it's a huge pain in the ass on my end, it's I think it's worth it. You know, Especially with the stonewash finish. Like I machine it, stonewash it, and then I got to reload it in the machine and engrave it. And my engraving is only 3 to 5 thou deep, so any bad loads, anything gets under the part, that part is essentially scrapped because the engraving's not going to look right. So that adds a lot to it. Then handwriting all those cards, whew, that's rough.
oh, I bet.
So that's my terrible handwriting that's on your card there, Dylan.
So that actually, I don't think I have this on the list, but I meant to put it on it. How are you doing your engraving? Because I know it's 316. 316 is not the most user-friendly material to machine, and your engraving is so crisp on it. I mean, it is just as good in the 316 as it is on your brass plates, and I was really, really impressed.
Well, thank you. It's a 31 thou ball nose Harvey tool, and like I said, I think my engraving is maybe 5 thou deep, and I'm doing it in one pass. I use primarily helical and Harvey. I've heard you, Dylan, especially talk a lot about helical. I've been a long time helical user, and I will continue to be a helical user, and Harvey as well. They make it so easy to get it right on the first shot. Their Machining Advisor Pro is fantastic. It's the best speeds and feeds calculator I've seen. Great customer service. And Dylan, I know, and even Payton, I know you guys have mentioned the issues with distributors, and that so one distributor does helical and one does Harvey. Is that?
Yeah, I've got two, and one that's in Phoenix and Tucson, and one that's in just Phoenix for Harvey. And the Harvey guy is fantastic. Helical guy, or the helical company, is just horrible.
Yeah, so I go through Butler Brothers, and from what I heard, I have a pretty good contact at Helical and Harvey that I talk to quite a bit, and from what he says is Butler Brothers isn't supposed to sell to me, so I don't know, because I'm in Southwest PA, and I guess that's not their territory, but I mean they have an online site. I think that's where I placed my first order. Then I kind of got in touch with one of their sales guy who's fantastic. I can send him an RFQ. He'll get back to me within 10 minutes, and I'll have the order placed within 15 minutes, and it's heading my way. And they offer both Helical and Harvey. So I guess I'm fortunate in that aspect, even if it's not legal. But so.
Yeah. No, I mean, like my Harvey guy, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, I needed some key seat cutters, and I called him at 4:30 p.m. or maybe it was 3:30, and was like, "Hey, I need these 4-part numbers." He said, I needed them overnight shipped. He was like, "Okay, I think I can still put it in and get it shipped out today. It'll be there Monday." And I was like, "That's perfect." And they showed up that Saturday, like the next day, and that's what I need a lot of the time for these really quick turnaround jobs.
Right, exactly, and that's the type of service I get through my distributor, and I'm fortunate that they sell both. And again, I mean, I use some other stuff as well, and I know people are interested in my Frasia finisher that I post about. And
yeah, I've got a question about that actually. I wanted to kind of pick your brain about that.
Yeah, and I use I use some Gorilla Mills. I don't know if either of you have ever used Gorilla Mills, but they make some pretty good products as well. I have a contact who reps Gorilla Mill. He's a good guy, and I'm more than happy to give him my business if I come across something where I have a odd application that maybe helical doesn't have, I'll go with a Gorilla mill. So
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of Gorilla, but I've never tried it before.
yeah, they're a small company. I actually toured their facility. Pretty small company, but they're growing. And they make a nice end mill.
Awesome. So let's jump back real quick to your Frasia though, because they're starting to become more popular in the U.S. It seems like, but I had used them maybe 5 or 6 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
We used them at the first shop I worked at just for one or two jobs, and they looked just so gnarly and not like anything you'd ever really want to use. But they really do just work so well. It seems like in stainlesses.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I was introduced to Frasia actually through our Hermle guys. Hermle uses a lot of Frasia tooling. Um, their applications, they're actually located fairly close to each other. Hermle is out of Germany and Frasia is out of Switzerland. So that's how we essentially came across Frasia. In addition to that crazy finisher that I'll talk about here shortly, they also make some great aluminum tools. I know both of you guys run aluminum. They make some very, very sharp aluminum tools. We use a lot of Frasia tools here for cutting our plastic, which we use similar tooling to what you use in aluminum. It has to be a very sharp edge to get a good finish, especially in the poly parts. So they do make great plastic and aluminum tools as well. But so the the Frasia finisher, we had the Frasia rep come in, and I was running. This is at my day job. I was running a bone chisel essentially, and I was getting some so-so finishes, side milling it. It's 440 stainless, and he had this crazy looking tool that he said, "Here, try this," and it was that 7 flute. It was a 1/2 inch tool with that very tight helix on it. And I was like, all right, this is never going to work, but I'll give it a shot. He was like, oh yeah, we're getting, side milling. We're getting finishes sub 15 RA. So give it a shot. And I did. And sure enough, first part off was about a 9 RA side milling in 440 stainless. We ran, I think that job was for 60 pieces. Same tool, part number 60 was about a 10 RA. So they last. They're great tools. They do leave a very nice finish. They're a little pricey. I just had to bite the bullet and order another one for at home, and it's always worse ordering a tool at home than it is at your day job. I know that. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But no, I mean that's bananas. Like that low of an RA for a side mill finish in stainless, like that's unheard of pretty much.
You can't take a big step over, obviously, because the chip gullet is next to nothing. So I think max step over on that, I'm running a 3/4 inch tool at home. Max step over, I think I'm taking a 6 thou, something like that, leaving 6 with my rougher.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you can't take a lot, but the tools last and they leave a great finish. Frasia sells direct online, which is a big plus. So they have an online store. You can go there, check out. And they're out of Minnesota as their U.S. headquarters. They're good people to talk to. So it's and we've only started using Frasia probably within the last year, I would say, and we've been very happy with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely have to try them out. So, kind of, I guess, segueing into your machine. There's we've got a few questions about it. Let's go over. Well, actually, hold on. Before that, looking at the razor, you have 2 mill parts and a lathe part, and no CNC lathe.
Yes,
I have got to know how you're doing that handle.
So the first probably 10 handles I made in house, and now I do outsource the handles to a guy. He's on Instagram as well. His name is Ben Jenkinson. He runs Jimco Machine. He's in Nebraska, and he's got a Swiss shop. So I've kind of came to know him through Instagram. And the way I was making them, as you can imagine, was not scalable at all. So the first prototype handle I made was on my benchtop Grizzly lathe, and I turned it all by hand. And that's actually the handle that's on my razor at home that I use. So that was the first prototype. The next 8, I used my Mori mill as a lathe. So I loaded up my material into my tool holder, and I mounted my rougher and my finisher in my 5th axis vise on my Pseudocoma indexer. So, yeah. So, and I had, I mean, it was fairly slick, if I do say so myself, where it was the part would come down, it would rough, it would pick up, my indexer would index, spin 180 degrees, my finisher was there, it would come, finish, and then all I was left with, I think I was taking them to the manual lathe and parting them off and finishing the backside there, but that's kind of how I ran my first 10 to kind of, get an idea, and I think I gave a couple razors to some friends and stuff, and they probably got those ones, but as you can imagine, that's not real scalable, so in the interim, I reached out to Ben in Nebraska, and he's been great to work with. He runs a nice shop, so he's been making my handles since. But I am going to be purchasing a CNC lathe probably within the next month or 2.
Okay, because I mean that was, I had seen your Instagram post kind of going through that whole process of the manual lathe to your chucking it up, and I was like, there is no way he made 100 pieces for this order in his mill, like just no way.
No, I'm not that dumb.
Okay, that makes me feel better for you.
yeah no, that was, I learned after about part 6, I was like, okay, I gotta do something different here because this is miserable. Not to mention, I have one spindle, so while I'm screwing around making handles on my mill, I'm not making the other 2 components, which it just wasn't scalable. So as much as I wanted to keep everything in house, and eventually I do want to pull everything in house, I mean, it didn't make sense to do that at the time. So it's much more suited to a Swiss machine than a 12,000 pound 1993 Mori mill.
Yeah. So you actually touched on one of Brandon Sadiswa's questions, B Sadiswa on Instagram. He said, what would be the next equipment purchase for YPM by value, under 500, 1,000, 5,000. So you're getting a lathe. I mean, you said
and
that.
That's actually not on my list. So I am getting a lathe, but I didn't put it in there. And so another benefit of my day job is I work with a lot of great people, and we typically, they're aware that we have, I have one of my coworkers also has a shop at home. They're aware of our shops at home. My mill actually came from my day job by way of another person, but it actually, it spent the first 15 years of its life making medical implants, and now it's in my shop. And that's also where my lathe is going to be coming from. It's actually down over the hill right now in our plastics shop. So it's a Mazak QT10. It's a late 90s machine, but it's only ever cut plastic. It's never had coolant in it. The coolant pan and the auger have never been used. The coolant pump's never been used. It's a very clean machine. So
wow,
that's kind of the benefits. One of the benefits of working here is as we replace equipment, we typically get first dibs on the stuff going out the door. So, but I did not add that to Brandon's question. So, Brandon, I talked to him on Instagram quite a bit. He's actually done some trial laser engraving for me.
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty slick.
Yeah, so he's a good guy. He posts some pretty good content, mostly through his stories. So he also works in a shop. So, but thanks for the question, Brandon.
So yeah, besides the lathe, then what is your next equipment purchase? What do you need?
All right, so I see he has under 500. Under 500, I need another blast cabinet. So typically I just run aluminum oxide blast to get my stonewash finish. I'm going to start offering some glass bead finish as well. And it's not practical to mix those two or try to, change out that media. You always end up with a little bit of aluminum oxide left in your glass bead, and it shows up in the part. So I need to purchase another blast cabinet. And to be honest, all I use is the old Harbor Freight benchtop blast cabinet, and I've been using it for 6 months, and I have no complaints so far. Had to add my own light into it. I bought, the Dust Deputy dust collector and hook a shop back up to it, and I have no complaints. So I'll probably be purchasing another one of those at least in the short term. Eventually, I'll graduate to an Empire or a Scat Blast or something like that. But so that's going to be my next purchase, and that's probably coming here in the next couple weeks. So somewhere between 500 and 1,000. I need more table space and another workbench. It seems like any flat surface in my shop collects stuff. And it drives me crazy. Actually, I just spent last Sunday with my wife, my dad, and then my father-in-law. We were out in the shop rearranging and cleaning because I have a slight OCD, and it was driving me insane. The state it was in, it was still kind of in disarray from the order I had to deliver to the distributor. So there was stuff everywhere. And like I said, anything flat, collected something on it. So I need some more table space for sure, or else things get misplaced, or I'm, using my blast cabinet as a table to do things I shouldn't. So 500 to 1,000 is definitely some more table space. And I think it was in between 1,000 and 5,000. I need to invest in some 0-point fixturing. I know you guys talk a lot about the Pearson stuff. I've been looking very hard at the Pearson pallet system. I've also been looking very hard at some fifth axis rock lock stuff. We use some fifth axis here at work. My vise on my indexer is fifth axis. So I don't know which way I'm going to go there yet. I've been looking very, very hard in that realm, but I need to get quicker at changing over. It's just too slow right now. I have a dual station orange vise and then my fifth axis vise, and my op one for my razor components is essentially a pallet. I use Mighty Bites and then the MMM Piranha strips to hold my 2 pieces of stock. I run 2-piece flow, so every cycle I get 2 complete razors done. So I kind of designed it so that it was scalable to go to some sort of pallet system. I just need to make that jump and make it happen. And I foresee that happening probably within the first half of this year for sure. So then we were between 5,000 and 10,000. I need to upgrade my compressor. So I run it's a 2-stage Ingersoll Rand compressor now, and I don't know if you've seen some of my latest posts, but my motor kind of crapped the bed on me, and I am currently running my machine off of a Cobalt compressor in the meantime. And
jeez.
So I saw one of your questions is, what tool can I not live without? That answer is my compressor. I've learned in the last week. When the reciprocating compressor is running, it's great and it keeps up with what I need to do, but I can't blast and run my machine off of this little dinky compressor I have right now. I have a new motor coming for my compressor, but I would like to upgrade to a rotary screw compressor at some point. One for just decibel level, a rotary or a reciprocating compressor is quite loud. I have it in an insulated room, so it's a little bit quieter, but still it's a little bit loud.
Yeah, it's rough for sure.
Yeah, so I actually had that question for you guys. I know, Payton, you have a screw compressor, right?
Yeah, an Atlas.
Okay, and then Dylan, what do you have in your shop?
We've got a Eaton Polar piston compressor.
Okay.
It's a 3-phase 7.5 horsepower, I think. It's either 5 or 7.5, something like that.
Oh, yours is 3-phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I see a screw compressor in my future for sure. So that would run me somewhere between 5 and 10 grand, I'm sure. And then the 10 grand plus is I need another spindle. So I'm, with this being an IMTS year, I think by the time it rolls around, I'm going to be looking pretty hard at a new mill. One, I need something that's more geared towards production. I love my Mori when it's running. And I think I saw that question coming up here, and that's going to be a fun one to dig into. But
yeah, we've got a few questions about your mill, so
yeah. So when it's running, I love it. But I have no tool breakage detection, no probing. I've come in to at least three different occasions. Running a day job and having a family, I have to run overnight. I have to run while I'm at work. But on quite a few occasions I've come back to about 8 broken tools, which
Oof.
equates to about $600, $700 worth of tooling that goes just because an 1/8 inch rougher went. So I need tool breakage detection. Probing, I can live without, but it kind of comes as a package deal, and I'll welcome probing. But tool breakage detection is really, really what I'm looking for, and I can put that on my mill now. But I think by the time I sourced all the right components and got it all working, I'd be better off just investing in something new with a warranty. That would be nice, a warranty.
Oh yeah.
Looking forward to that.
You like that word?
Yes, yes.
So speaking of your mill, it is a MV40?
Yeah, so it's a 93 MV40M.
Okay, and you got an I-80 on there?
Yes, it's a Yasnak control, and I know your Kitamura has a Yasnak control.
Yeah, so it's kind of an I-80 J300 bastard, but yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your machine. We've got 3 different listener questions that are all about it, but let's kind of step through it. So you said it's a 93. How much memory does it have?
Okay, so I am very fortunate in that aspect. It has 2 megabytes of memory.
Oh, you got the full upgrade.
Whoa.
Yes, and that's a factory upgrade too. I do not have to drip feed. I run 2-piece flow. I do a lot of surfacing. Now I do run sub programs on my Op2 stuff. So if I didn't run sub programs, I wouldn't be able to fit all my Razor programs into the machine. But since I run sub programs on the Op2, I can fit everything I need to in there. I've not run out of memory yet. It is fantastic because I know some people who have a similar machine to me, and they have 64 kilobytes of memory or something ridiculous. So,
Yeah, I've got 512K, and it's painful.
Yeah, so being that this machine, came from my day job, we don't skimp here usually. We usually get things decked out, and like I said, they bought this machine new in '93. They got the upgraded memory on it. It is a full 5-axis machine, so it can run simultaneous 5-axis.
Oh wow!
It's got an 8K spindle. It was really in '93 would have been the Cadillac of CNC machines. And like I said, I have a Sudocoma indexer on it, so I got a pretty high end indexer on it. So when it runs, it's a fantastic machine. However, I did not purchase it straight from my day job. It was purchased when it left here, just before I started here. And the guy had ambitions of starting his own shop, and he put it in a warehouse and never started his own shop. And it sat in a non-climate controlled area. It had power to it. There were leaks in the roof. In hindsight, I should have been better. And I see this is one of the questions coming up too. But I think a lot of my issues that I've had have stemmed from it sitting for 2 years, not under power. And if you run any older used equipment, you kind of know that don't ever power them down. And that's what I do now. My phase converter runs 24/7, and my machine is powered up always, because most of my problems happened when I shut it down and powered it back up. And we even see that on some of our newer machines here is, we shut down over holiday for about a week and a half, and usually getting back up and running, even on our newer Machinas, putting power back to them, we usually have at least 1 or 2 issues getting back up and running. So whatever it is with electrical equipment, it does not like being powered down and then cycled back up. So I've learned to leave my machine under power. But like I said, I think a lot of my issues have stemmed from it sitting for quite some time.
Okay, so yeah, we had questions. Let me dump them all out, and we can kind of, you've already started to answer some of them. So Adam the Machinist said, seems like you know what your way around the mechanical and electrical systems of your Mori. Is machine repair something you've done professionally, or have you had just to rise to the occasion now that you own an older machine?
No, I've never done it professionally, although I think I could be a Yasnak and Mori tech guy now. So I could always fall back on that, I think, because I've become very familiar with the electrical cabinet on my machine. I think I got I'm fairly mechanically inclined. Being a mechanical engineer, I've always kind of had a mechanical mindset. But honestly, I think those 2.5 years I spent underground in the coal mine, my job was repairing large electromechanical pieces of equipment. So that's where I kind of learned how to read an electrical print. I learned how to troubleshoot. I kind of learned my way around, machinery that had both electrical and mechanical components. So I think I gained a lot of my knowledge there and a lot of my troubleshooting through working there. The next place I worked, we didn't have a maintenance department. So any machine went down, it was our responsibility to get it back up and running. So I spent a lot of time on wire EDM electrical cabinets as well. But then it was just trial by fire, really. When the Maury went down, I was not making any money. I have one spindle, so it was all hands on deck, and that's only two hands because it was just me. And I, again, am fortunate that I work with a lot of great guys and a lot of knowledgeable guys here at Perryman and they also are very familiar with my machine because, they ran it for 15 plus years. So I got a lot of help from guys at work, and I think you've spoken to this before, Dylan, but Yaskawa support is very good. They still support all their older, controls in CNC machine tools.
And it's free too.
It's free.
I mean,
Yep,
all the phone
free
stuff, at least, all the phone and
Yep.
email that you can ask for.
Yep, and it's great, and they're very responsive. So I'm, I like the Yasnak control, and I think you did as well. And I know you mentioned liking that control over Fanuc, and I agree. I think Yasnak was a great control, and I have no issues with it. I have no issues with their support. And then on the Maury end, I got lucky and got a hold of an older gentleman tech guy that, he knows all this older machinery, and he's very knowledgeable. He has step-by-step documentation on how to change this out, how to change that out, and he sends it all my way, and that happens to be free too. So really, the only money I have in it is parts and some sweat equity. But I've been fortunate that I've found the right people that know the machine. Now, is it frustrating? Oh my gosh, yes, it's so frustrating.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean so Dan's custom machine asked. He said, "Seems like your older machine has let you down at some bad times. Does this make you regret not upgrading to a new machine to have less problems?" And I mean, I would assume obviously you would want a new machine, and I'm sure it's frustrating. So let's maybe talk about what things have gone wrong and how you've remedied them. Because I went back through your feed, and there's been it seems like a few times now that you've had been down due to various things.
Yeah, so I have replaced my spindle encoder twice, my spindle drive once, and my Y-axis drive once. And I'm limping with a subpar upper spindle bearing right now, so that's on my to-do list as well. So I kind of been through the gamut. Oh, I've also faced quite a few tool changer issues, but that's just been due to some really gummed up contactors, fortunately. So that hasn't been too big of a deal. Do I regret it? It depends on when you ask me. If I'm hoisting an 80-pound spindle drive into the electrical cabinet and trying to hook it up by myself, yes, I regret every minute of it. But once I get out and I calm down and pick all the stuff up that I threw on the ground and think about it, I don't have a machine payment. So the spindle wasn't making money, but I also wasn't too stressed about it because, I bought the machine outright. I didn't have a payment on it, which it's like I said, it depends on when you ask me, but all in all, no, I don't regret it. Especially it's been, other than the spindle bearing, it's been running pretty good for me lately. Now I'll probably go home tonight after this podcast and it'll either be on fire or I don't know, something will be wrong because I said that. So
no, you just gotta sweet talk it. I understand. I gotta go make some parts on my kitty tonight too, and I'm gonna baby it and tell it what a good machine it is, and hopefully get through what I need to get through. So
yeah, so I have one those orange plastic dead blow hammers. That thing has taken quite a few trips across my shop for sure. It's frustrating, but Yeah, when it's running, like I said, I love the machine. It's very accurate. It's very rigid. The old cliche of I can hold tenths all day or whatever. I mean, I can hold a half thou on it, no problem. It's for a machine that's, what is it, 27 years old. It's great.
Yeah.
And when I get a new machine, I'm keeping this one because, like I said, I need another spindle. This will probably become my R&D, prove out new products machine, any random job shop stuff. But yeah, sure, it's frustrating at times, but oh well, that's all part of the fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, my story with my kitty kind of reflects yours very similarly. I mean, mine's 19 years old. It's thrown, it's pulled the pallets apart and thrown one into the machine before. I've had my main board go out twice now, and had to first have it professionally repaired, but not by Yaskawa, and then repaired by Yaskawa, which really just means half the price of a new board from them.
Right. Yep.
But overall, like you said, I can hold a half thou all day on it, and it's accurate and it's fast and it does
Yep.
everything I want. So I
Yeah,
understand.
and that's the thing with the older machines. I mean, newer machines today are fast as can be, but I think you kind of sacrifice a little bit of rigidity in those direct drives, and they're not boxways. They're linear rails, and the older machines are slower in their rapids, but man, are they rigid, and they make a nice part. They leave a nice finish. So I do love my Mori, and I don't regret it. So. But I am looking forward to, to owning a machine that's under warranty and I don't have to worry about. But I'm not looking forward to the machine payment because I'm not going to be able to buy a new machine outright. But it is what it is. I think by that time I shouldn't have to sweat a machine payment. But if the time's not right either, I'm not gonna pull the trigger because I don't want to put myself or my family under that kind of stress. So.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's got to be the right thing at the right time. But it sounds like you're well on your way there.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. It's it's been a fun ride these last few months, and I have a lot of big things planned for 2020. Probably way too many big things planned for 2020, and I'll probably accomplish maybe a third of them. But hey, gotta have goals. So.
Yeah. Well, I know I've seen some of the ancillary products that you've been posting up. A stand for the razors, all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else comes out of your shop.
Yeah, there should be. So I have like I said, I just released an aggressive base plate. So if you there's more to a safety razor than meets the eye, and there's some good. And I plan on posting some diagrams explaining some of the different stuff, but there's a lot of geometry that comes into play as far as what kind of shave you get out of it. So I'm releasing I just released, sorry, an aggressive base plate that has a larger blade gap and positive blade exposure. So essentially, what that means is in between, so you clamp it down with the blade in there, in between the base plate and the actual blade itself, you can fit larger shim stock, is what that means. So the gap between there is bigger, which kind of exposes more skin to the blade and creates a little bit more aggressive shave, but lets you get a little bit closer shave. And then the positive exposure means that the blade actually protrudes beyond the safety of the top cap and the base plate itself. And we're only talking, I think the exposure is only like 3 thou, so it's not much, but it is, the blade is the first thing that touches your skin, which there's different shaving techniques. And this is all stuff that I've learned in the past probably 6 months. When I first made this thing, I'm like, all right, make a safety razor. Well, then I put it out there and I got people saying, oh, your thread's different. It's not standard. I can't use my other handles on this. So now I'm releasing a top cap that has 1032 thread rather than 1024 because 1032 is the more standard, and it'll let people use their other handles on my top cap and base plate. So and there's forums out there, and Payton, honestly, it's probably similar to like the Lego community. I mean, there's conventions that for this wet shaving community.
Really?
There's forums.
What?
Yeah, there's. I mean, and this is, like I said, this is all new to me in the last 5 months.
You got to get
like I
in
said,
on that.
yeah, I'm already looking at some shaving conventions. It's good exposure, and there's not too many players in the CNC, especially domestic CNC machining of safety razors. There's a couple that I can think of and that I've actually spoken to, and they run small shops. One of them's out of Canada. It's Carve Shaving. His name's Chris. He runs a nice shop and makes a nice razor. And then there's a guy that runs, it's called Charcoal Goods. His name's Brian. He makes, I think he focuses more on handles. He does some very nice handle designs, but there's really not too much going on in the CNC machining of safety razors. Like you said earlier, Dylan, it's mostly metal injection molded and produce the crap out of them. So, but it's been, like I said, it's been very interesting. The first time, after I released the pre-order, I Googled Yates safety razor, and it popped up on all these forums, people talking about my safety razor. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what realm have I entered?
That's so cool though, that you almost immediately have brand recognition. I mean, that's such a big thing in selling products nowadays.
Yeah. And I don't know if I got lucky or what, but most of the feedback I've gotten has been very positive. And I've actually become pretty good friends with some older gentlemen that are very active in the wet shaving community, and I've talked to them quite a bit. I actually send them my new products to essentially beta test and give me feedback because they have lots of experience in it. And they seem to love my products. So I guess I kind of got lucky out of the gate that, I didn't intend on entering this big wet shaving community, but I kind of fell into it, and I happened to release a product that, was at least decent and got a decent name for myself out there. So it's, like I said, it's been fun, but interesting, and a huge learning experience, and I'm learning every day. So it's fun.
Yeah, definitely. So stepping back a little bit, more holistic question. I had one, and it kind of combines with one that Brandon had as well. So my question was, how has working in a medical machining company changed the way that you design and process parts that are used on the body? And his, even more holistically, was, how has your day job influenced your business decisions, as far as finances, marketing, machinery, tooling, all of that?
Sure. And my first answer to this is probably not how the question was intended, but my day job influences my side business, in the way that I have to be as lean as I can at home just due to time. I spend 8 to 10 hours here a day. So when I get home, I have to have a game plan. I have to, I'll make a list of what I need to get done in the shop. So I don't get into the shop and I'm just wandering around aimlessly. I have to have a goal, and I have to have things that I need to get done because my time is limited at home. So that's one way my day job essentially affects, and I think in a positive way, it forces me to be efficient. But I'm sure that wasn't how that question was intended. But that's, the first thing that popped into my mind is, I try to have a great plan for when I get home, so I can, make the most of my time. The other way is, I already touched on it, but my day job offers me first dibs on older machinery, on used equipment, on vices they're getting rid of, inspection equipment. So it's, I again, probably not how that question was intended, but it's I'm very fortunate that, they offer it up to us first, and I kind of end up with things that I probably shouldn't or wouldn't be able to afford or, acquire if I didn't work here. The other thing would be tooling. I gain tons of knowledge by working my day job on tooling. I get to experiment with different brands. I get tooling reps in here all the time, and so I kind of stay up to date on the latest tooling technology. And I'm very fortunate there that I meet a lot of great sales reps that I stay in touch with. They bring a lot to the table. They let me test out tools. So I'm very, I'm lucky there. And, if there's a brand of tooling out there, I've probably tried it. And I wouldn't be able to say that if, it was just my shop at home. As far as finances, I don't know. I wouldn't say they're directly related. I don't think I don't spend a lot of time in the finance department here. We're a fairly big facility. We have a quoting department. Sometimes when I hear how much my parts have been quoted for, I get a little upset. Yeah, I wouldn't say those two overlap too much, but mainly the tooling, and then just forcing me to use my time wisely when I'm in my shop.
Yeah, I definitely reflect that as well. I don't think that I would have such a deep interest in automation and 0 point systems and things like that if I didn't have to make the most of the limited time that I have in my own shop. So I totally
Right,
understand
and
that.
yeah, and that's one of the reasons I need to get to some quicker changeover 0 point stuff, because I'll spend an hour or two pulling the vise out, cleaning it up, switching soft jaws, and I run the Car Smart soft jaws in my orange vise, which is nice, but it's it's still time consuming. Whereas with the Rock Lock or a Pearson pallet, it's one turn of a wrench or one turn of the vacuum system or whatever, and you swap your next pallet in there. So it's the next step for sure. I need to get more lean there.
Totally. Yeah, it's especially for small shop guys. That's how we compete. So I totally
Yeah,
understand.
and it's not ridiculously expensive either. Some of these smaller guys like Pearson and even Fifth Axis, they're not the Lang of the world. They're a smaller company that can offer their products at reasonable prices. So it's not out of reach for us, smaller guys. It's kind of along the same lines as Fusion. We haven't really talked too much about Cam, but Fusion has really opened the door for smaller guys and guys in their garage, or guys like me in my shop. It's kind of before it was you got to spend 30 grand on Mastercam or something like that. I mean, it wasn't feasible. But now Fusion, it's free or $500 a month depending on how you play that card, and it's I mean it's really opened the door for people.
Yeah, so let's touch on that. I mean, you brought it up. What do you use for CAD CAM and why? And then also Fort Manufacturing said, what did you do for a post processor for your older machine?
Yeah, so I'll start with my day job. We use Power Mill and Part Maker here, both Autodesk products. We used to use Mastercam, and we transitioned to Power Mill, and we'll never go back. I mean, I don't I don't know if either of you have any exposure to Power Mill, but it's kind of where Fusion's going. A lot of the stuff that they're pulling into Fusion is already or has been in Power Mill for quite some time, and it's just the control that you have over your toolpath, um, before you generate it, and then even after you generate it. If I have a raster toolpath with 200, lines of toolpath, every one of those I can click and put a different lead and link on it. And after it's generated, it's very powerful. It's really great software, and I can see Fusion heading that way, which is good. But they still have a little ways to go till they reach Power Mill, and I'm kind of afraid of what it's going to cost when they reach that point. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems with the manufacturing add-ins that they're at least starting to show their hand as far as how they're going to price things, and I'm hoping that there's always going to be this base level of Fusion that'll get 3+2 work done
yeah,
for a relatively cheap price.
right. Yeah, so then for all of our mill turns, we use Autodesk Part Maker, which is great software. We have two Swiss machines as well, and we use Part Maker for that. We used to use Mastercam, and then we used Esprit, and we weren't happy with Esprit at all, so we used Part Maker.
Esprit's just
And
tough. It's like it's so dense.
it is, and we were getting little to no support, especially when it came to modifying post processors. They just flat out didn't want to do it. We run our plastics machine. We have some Mori NTXs, mill turns, and they didn't really want to change their post processors. They said it's proven, everyone runs it in the country. We don't really want to change it. But we had special calls that we needed for running plastic, and we just didn't get much support. Now, whether that was our reseller or if that was the spree themselves, I don't really know. But it's a pretty penny to buy a spree, and then to not get support was pretty frustrating. So we jumped to Autodesk, and we are very fortunate that our Autodesk sales rep is out of Philadelphia. His name's Brian Denola, and I think a lot of the Autodesk guys, if they're listening out there, they know Brian. He is a wealth of knowledge. He was a part maker applications guy for a long time, and now he's in sales. He has written and modified every post processor for us. And we're on version probably 50 on at least 4 or 5 of our post processors.
That's impressive.
He's added custom macros tailored just to us. PowerMill is very macro friendly. It's very macro heavy. So he's written tons of macros to make our lives easier. And he's I give him a hard time, but he's a great guy. And I hear some things about Autodesk like elsewhere, and I think we're just fortunate that we have a great sales rep, someone who knows the software and knows it very well, the ins and outs of it. Like I said, it takes a special kind of person to completely write and then modify a post processor, and he's very responsive. I have a cell number. We kind of lucked into that one, but we've been so happy with our Autodesk products here that it's been a great partnership. So we're happy we made the switch, and I don't foresee us going anywhere else. So that takes me to at home. I use Fusion at home, obviously. Now, while Fusion is relatively inexpensive, PowerMill and PartMaker aren't ridiculously expensive. I think 3+2 and PowerMill is they're subscription based as well. When they go to PowerMill and PartMaker, I think it's like $4,000 a year, something like that, $4,500. So it's not crazy, but it's a little bit out of my price range, at least right now. So yeah, I use Fusion 360. Fusion's great because it's parametric. So especially when you're designing your own products, any change you make on the CAD side obviously gets reflected in the CAM side, and it's easy to regenerate the toolpath. Whereas software like PowerMill and PartMaker aren't parametric; they're strictly CAM. So it's a little bit more work to make changes. But like I said, we're a medical job shop here, so we're not changing the models or anything like that. So it's not as big of a deal. For my post processor at home, I actually use the Haas pre next gen control post that with some tweaks in it. Again, Brian from Autodesk has found his way into Fusion and modifying Fusion post processors, so he helps me out there. I'm more than happy to dig into and learn how to modify and how to edit posts, but that's not the business I'm in. My time is limited, so it's great that he helps me out, and he's modified that pre next gen control post for me for my Mori to do what I need it to do. So, and the Yasnac control, Dylan, it's not all that much different from FANUC code. I think drilling and tapping might be slightly different, and then I have my my indexer on there, so my axes are set up a little bit differently. But all in all, the pre NGC control post was pretty close to what I needed.
Okay. Yeah, I love the tapping on the Yasnac using pitch instead of inches per minute.
Yep.
That's
yep.
As far as I'm concerned, that's the way to do things.
Sure. And does the Brother do something similar? I know that's like their thing is tapping, and I know you had mentioned it. And they do something along the same lines where how they pair their spindle and servos or something.
Yeah. So there's they have their own tapping code. It's by far, personally, from everything I've seen, I think it's the best tapping code on the market right now as far as the way it's laid out. So it's G77, and then your XYZ, blah blah blah. But then if it's a metric thread, I want to get this right. I think if it's metric, it's I, and if it's English, it's J, and if it's metric, you just put I and then the pitch of the thread, And then if it's metric or if it's English, it's J and then the threads per inch.
Yeah, it's nice when things are intuitive.
Yeah, it's super easy. So if you have a quarter 20, it's just J20, and you're golden, and it takes care of the feed and all that stuff for you, and it's all RPM dependent.
That's nice. Yeah, I don't do too much tapping. The threaded post on the top cap is obviously thread milled. None of my other stuff is tapped. I'll get into tapping whenever I, pull the handles in and start tapping on the lathe. But tapping on a lathe is scary to me. Tapping in general is scary to me. I'm not a big fan, so we'll see.
Well, you're also tapping in a lot more scary material than we usually are.
Yeah, tapping 316 is rough. We don't really tap too much titanium here at work. We usually thread mill everything. We we need to have the control over our threads. We do some tapping in the stainless, and we don't do too much threading in general in the plastics. Some, but not much. So I'm not a fan of tapping. I don't know. It's like, and it's not only that. You're using, typically if you break a tap, that part's junk, so let's throw it away and start over, which is rough. So you break a thread mill, you can usually go back in and clean it up. It's slower, a lot slower, but sometimes it's worth it.
Yeah, definitely, especially when you've got such high dollar parts.
Sure.
All right, so we've kind of worked our way out from the microscopic to the macroscopic. I've got a few 30,000 foot questions, and then I think that's really all we had written down. So the one thing that we had on here, and you kind of touched on it maybe earlier, but what's your favorite machine you've run? I mean, it sounds like you have had quite an experience from CNC Bridgeports all the way up through Hermleys. What is your by far favorite one to run?
Hermle C22 by far. It's got the Heidenhain control on it, which is such a nice control. Going from Fanuc to Heidenhain is like night and day. You kind of need to forget everything you know about G-code when you go to Heidenhain, but man, once you do, it just, like you said with the tapping on the brother, it just makes sense. And it's very variable heavy. So essentially at the heading of each toolpath, you call out variables. So you can have, your cutting feed set as a variable, your rapid feed set as a variable, all these different variables. So then instead of going through all your code, if you want to, change your feed rate from 10 to 15, all you do is change the one time it's called out in the variable at the heading of the program or the heading of the toolpath, and the rest it takes care of itself. It took a little while to get. I mean, we're a strictly Fanuc shop here. Our Mazex, I think the older ones run Mitsubishi, but essentially we're a Fanuc shop. So it took some doing to get guys to switch over to Heidenhain. But man, is it a nice control. And then the machine itself, the Hermle itself, it's a beautiful looking machine. It performs like no other machine I've ever seen. It's Hermle and Kern as far as I'm concerned when you come to high-end 5-axis machines. Kern, focusing a little bit more on the smaller envelope, whereas Hermle has some bigger machines. But to watch the Hermle run and run 5-axis surfacing toolpaths, you think, okay, there's no way that part is going to come out looking good. And I mean, we produce some of the most beautiful parts we've produced come off the Hermle, and that's running full 5-axis. And it's just, I mean, it's night and day compared to anything I've ever run. And, our goal, and whenever we launched the project to find a good 5-axis machine, was to reduce our cycle time on a certain part by 40%, which is a lofty goal. We're well over a 50% reduction on that part on the Hermle.
Goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's crazy what they can do. We went from single piece flow to we run 5-piece flow on that machine through our fixture. And we have to credit, I mean, Hermle has been great to work with. They're out of Wisconsin. Their U.S. headquarters is out of Wisconsin. We've been there quite a few times. They've been here quite a few times. They work with us on fixturing. They're here if we ever need anything. They've just been great to work with. And so one piece of technology that is proved itself very useful here recently is their 18K spindle. and down. So I think they offer like a 24K and then a 40K, but on their 18K spindle, which is the ones we got for this reason, is they have aluminum crush bushings on the way the spindle's mounted. It has 6 aluminum crush bushings. So if it takes a hit in Z, the aluminum crush bushings give way and the spindle doesn't take any damage. And they sold us on that, or they told us about that when we were purchasing the machine, and we're like, okay, that's great, we'll see if it works. Might just be a sales pitch. Well, about I think this was just before break, we had a little mishap on the machine where we crashed in Z on the Hermle.
Ooh.
I have the crush bushings are sitting behind me. They are all crushed.
Oh, geez.
The Hermle was here within a day, and they had us back up and running within a 12-hour shift.
Oh my goodness.
And there was 0 damage to the spindle. The crush bushings cost a couple $100, so we paid for the guy's time, and we were back up and running in a day. So it's really just ingenious technology, and it makes sense. I wasn't sold on it when they were telling us about it, but I have the proof sitting right behind me, and the machine was 0 damage, back up and running in a 12-hour shift. And it's just stuff like that. I mean, their response time on our little incident there was great. It happened on a Friday. They would have been there the next day had it not been a Friday. So they came in on Monday, and we were back up and running by afternoon shift on Monday. So
that's amazing.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just stuff like that. They took us, a few of us, over to Germany in the spring to their open house. And what a great experience that was. They got to tour the facility. I don't know if you guys have watched John's video, Saunders' video on the Hermle tour.
Yeah, I was actually going to mention, I think he talks about the crush bushings, and I felt the same way. I was like, I don't know if those will actually work.
Yeah, when we get off here, I'll shoot you a picture of these things. But they're definitely crushed, but the spindle is A-okay. But yeah, so the guy that gives the tour, that Gunther Schnitzer, he is the president and CEO, or the CEO of Hermle USA, and he is a great guy. He's the CEO of the company, but he started as a 16-year-old kid in Germany cutting the grass at Hermle.
Wow.
And he is, I think, 35 years old, and now he's the CEO of Hermle USA.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he was the maintenance guy, the yard guy at 16 years old in Germany, and he worked his way up, and he really knows the machines in and out. And if you've watched the video, I mean, you can see that he knows the machines in and out. And it's not often you get a CEO that has put in the sweat equity to get where he is and knows the machines that well. He's been to our facility. We've been out there. He's a really good guy. So I have nothing bad to say about Hermle. It's been a great experience. And we really stumbled upon them at IMTS, the last IMTS, and since then it's just been nothing but a great relationship. So we're actually getting ready, I think, to order 2 more C22s this year. So
wow,
we're
gonna slowly become a Heidenhain shop, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think the Machinos have gotten us very far, and they're good machines. But our oldest Machino now is going on 8 years old, and in 8 years, technology has advanced a lot in the machine tool industry. So, if we want to kind of stay where we are and stay ahead of the game, we have to invest in new machine tool technology, and that's kind of where we're heading. And when we launched that project, we looked at every maker. So I've looked at almost every 5-axis platform out there because I was heavily involved in the research and vetting these 5-axis machines. And at the end of the day, I mean, we just couldn't find one that was better than Hermle.
Very cool. Well, I've got 2 questions left. Both are much more general. One that I came up with yesterday, I don't know if you had seen it on the list, was, are you more motivated by the fear of failure or a desire for success, both in your day job and at your shop?
Yeah, I saw you snuck that one in there. I almost missed it. I was like, oh man, that one would have caught me off guard. And it's a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be a little bit of both. I don't like failure, and sometimes I'll see things through to a fault, because I don't like failure. I don't like being. My wife she's probably better to answer this. Is I don't like being wrong, so I'll do anything I can to be right, and it eventually at the end of the day, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. But I don't like failure, but you know, I I want to be successful, not only for myself, but for my family. Like I said, I want to leave something for my boys, even if it's, as they're growing up, to teach them good work ethic, or to teach them the basics of machining, and to use their hands and other for something other than, Xbox controller or something like that. I want to, that's kind of how I was brought up. And I think our generation was brought up, and I kind of see it slipping to the wayside. You know, Dylan, I'm sure you see it in your day job. It's hard to hire a good technical person anymore. So a good operator, a good setup guy. It's difficult to find someone that one wants to show up to work, and and two is willing to work. So I kind of want to instill that in them. So even if 10 years from now I close the doors on the shop, in those 10 years, if I've taught my boys something, and got to spend time with them in the shop, it'll be worth it for sure. So like I said, it's a little bit of both. I don't want my shop to fail, and I think just the way I am, I don't think I'll let it fail, and I'll grind it to the very end probably. Um, but again, I just want to be successful for myself and for my family, and uh, yeah, that's kind of how I would answer that question.
I think that's a great answer. And like you said, success takes many shapes and forms. It doesn't mean one thing. So I definitely appreciate that. So the last question, and this is one I didn't even talk over with Payton. We've been talking about this for a while, though. Is you've listened to the podcast?
Yep.
What do you think that we could do better? Because 2020 is going to be the year that we really want to kick this thing in gear and do better. What do you think we should do better about the podcast?
That's tough. Honestly, I think you guys do a great job. So I know in the last episode you said someone reached out and said more you two talking, and I enjoy the episodes where it's just you guys talking, but I really enjoy episodes like this where um you have a guest on, and you get to learn, and I feel honored to be in the list of guests that you've already had on here. I mean, you know I'm on here as well as Jay Pearson. I don't really consider myself in the same realm as Jay, and Jay's a great guy, and I've spoken with him briefly on Instagram, but him and Danny Rudolph, and all the others that you've had on here, Andrew Henry from Henry Holsters. And let me tell you, what a interesting guy. Like, I want to find him at IMTS. So Andrew, if you're listening, we got to meet up at IMTS, and I want to go have a drink with you, because it sounds, I mean, he just sounds like a cool dude to hang out with, and you don't see a lot of, that artistic ability, and that kind of person in our industry. And like I said when we started this podcast, is I am not artistic at all. So maybe I should kind of express any sort of art through my products and through my machining. But man, I can't draw to save my life. I can't do any of that. So yeah, he seems like a great guy, and I followed him for a while, and I never would have guessed he went to school for what was
viola making and violin making. Yeah, same. I mean, I even talked to him at the last IMTS and had zero idea of his backstory. So I think we're definitely going to have to do some sort of meetup with all of our guests and anybody listening at the next IMTS. I know at least right now I'm totally planning on going. I think Payton said that he's planning on going, so we're going to have to put something on, maybe in conjunction with one of the other podcasts or all the other podcasts. But for sure, I want to, kind of really put a face to all the names that we've talked to, and get to really hang out and chat more about
yeah,
this.
definitely. And I plan on being there all week this year. The last year, or the last IMTS, I went with Perryman Company. We were there for the first day and a half, and that was when we were swamped with this 5-axis project. So I had meetings with machine tool builders, and I was running around, so I didn't get to really see everything I wanted to see. So I think whether or not they choose to take me again this year, I'm planning on being there all week. So I'm looking forward to it. And like I said, if things go well, hopefully I'll be researching some machines for myself. But so one thing I had down here, I know you guys have talked about, getting more involved in the instant machinist community, and whether it's doing giveaways and things like that. And, this idea kind of popped in my head, and it's just something to chew on. I know people really enjoyed, at least I did, um, when, Curtis Chan did the Autodesk Cam challenges. You guys were talking about your Christmas ornament. So it kind of popped back into my head. And, since he left and went to ANSYS, I haven't really seen too much as far as any sort of cam challenge or any sort of challenge whatsoever. So I don't know if something like that would, pique your interest, some sort of within tolerance cam challenge or some sort of challenge. I know I'd be more than happy to donate a razor to the cause, but I think I always enjoyed that. It kind of brought the instant machinist community together and was fun. So
Okay, no, we'll definitely keep that in mind. That would be fantastic. I would
like that idea.
I mean, I absolutely love the challenges. I think we competed in every single one of them, even if we had some hardships along the way getting things done.
Yep.
But yeah, I always really appreciated it, and I thought it really brought our community together. So that's a great offer from you, and maybe we should reach out, Peyton and I, and kind of see who else is willing to donate something small, and we can put something together.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be, something that a lot of people would be interested in for sure. So I had a couple of questions for you guys.
Shoot.
Yeah. All right. So my first question is, I don't think you ever covered it. Have you two ever met in person?
Nope.
Nope.
No,
we met at IMTS. I don't think that it was very, very long, but I have met you in person, Peyton.
See, Peyton doesn't make much of an impression, Dylan.
Yeah, because
was this?
The last IMTS. I am 100% sure that I met you.
No, you did not.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was with.
I was with, the only person I was with that I knew at the time was Nick, Full Throttle. That's the only person I knew.
I don't even know if I said hi, but I feel like I was talking in a group with a lot of people with you, because I remember seeing you there.
Maybe the other two people I was with, I walked around with Grimsmo the last day he was there, and then I talked to Saunders a little bit, but other than that, I was with with Nick.
Yeah, well,
it sounds like trying to remember your first date with your girlfriend or something, bickering about it.
I'm positive I met you. I don't think I think I might have just said hi or something like that, but I do remember seeing you there in passing. Maybe.
I think you're crazy.
No. I totally remember. But anyway, so
yeah. Either way, I mean, whether or not you have it, I mean, that kind of speaks to how awesome the instant machinist and Instagram in general, as much as I hate to say it, because I think Instagram can be, and social media in general can be a cancer if used the wrong way. But, I think the instant machinist community is awesome. And the fact that you guys may or may not have met, but we're able to, meet each other at least online and then start a podcast and run a podcast for over half a year, is kind of speaks to that community. So I think that's awesome. And it was a question that I like I said, I don't think you ever covered it, and apparently there might be a few to brewing here. But,
no, I completely agree though.
Pictures it didn't happen.
I'm gonna have to go look now because I might even have one. But no, it's funny you say that, because another good friend, or what I would consider a really good friend of mine now, lives in Phoenix. He's 523 Industries on Instagram. And he just reached out to me randomly and was like, "Hey, I live in Phoenix now and see that you're down in Tucson. Can I come down and hang out someday?" And now we're friends and we hang out, every now and again whenever one of us is in the other's town. But it was completely, we didn't know each other before that, but it was just like, "Hey, you machine, I like machining. Let's hang out." So
right, exactly. And there are so many people that I consider my friends that I have never met, and it's all through Instagram. I mean, it's like, tons of people I talk to regularly on Instagram I've never met, and that's why this IMTS I'm really looking forward to meeting. I know, obviously I know their faces already, but just meeting them in person and going out and grabbing a drink or whatever, and it's just, I don't know, it's cool. It's an odd kind of way to meet people and become friends, but it's awesome. And just the knowledge that's out there and the willingness to share and to help is pretty great. So, and you got to credit guys like John Saunders who really was at the forefront of that movement. And I talked to John a lot as well. I have met John, but I talked to him a lot as well. Everything he's done for this industry is pretty incredible. Him and Grimsmo. So it's a cool community, and it's fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I completely agree.
All right, let's see. I got 2 more questions, and they're for Payton.
Uh-oh.
All right, Payton, would you buy your DM again?
No,
No?
I would not.
Why? And what would you go with?
Honestly, I could have gotten by with a super mini mill.
Yeah, I've looked at those. I don't like the umbrella tool changer.
You know,
I'm not.
I don't like it. The appeal and the how slow it is, I don't like either. But like you've even hinted to, is speed doesn't really matter as much as people think. I think I got kind of played by that, by the appeal of this super fast machine, where it's like, honestly, even if it would take, even a minute longer on certain cycles, I mean, it doesn't matter.
Right. What you're gaining with your machine is pretty much all on tool changes and rapids,
Yeah.
right? And even the rapids on the super mini mill, I'm sure are somewhat close to what the DM is. But I could see if you're running 1,000 parts where the cycle time is 3 minutes, right? So your tool changes matter there. But you're running mostly molds, so how much do your tool changes matter?
Yeah, I mean, case in point, I just finished a job for 100 parts, and just changing rapids from, I mean, this is a case for the DM, is changing the rapids from 50% to 100%. I saved 20 minutes total over 100 parts, which, I mean, that's a good chunk of change. If it was anything less, I probably wouldn't care.
Right. Yeah, that's decent, but I mean, there's a decent cost difference between those 2 machines as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so I was curious as I'm kind of starting to look into machines, and obviously, actually, I'm probably going to end up going with a Haas. I'll say probably right now, but a lot can happen between now and then.
Yeah.
And I see they have a VF2 SS with a 4th axis for 76.9 or something like that, and that's kind of tempting me because I don't need a 5th axis for the parts I run, but a 4th axis with some sort of tombstone setup would be ideal. So I'm kind of leaning in that direction.
You mean you're not going to buy a Doosan?
Don't get me started. I'll get in trouble if guys from work listen to this and hear me griping about. No, I think everyone has the same opinion here, but no, I don't know. Even Maury has a CMX 1100, which is like a essentially a VF4, and it's made in Davis, California, so it's made in the States, and I think it's like 130K, but it's fully decked out, probing through spindle coolant, 4th axis ready, no 4th axis. So I've been tempted there as well. It's a little bit bigger machine, but I don't know which way I'm going to go. But
that's a bizarre machine too. They have one at my local community college now, and like the sliding Y head is kind of
the head moves in the Y.
Yeah, it's a strange organization of
the
axes.
Got Siemens control too. Is what's on. Yeah, those have Siemens. You guys there?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I got quiet. So I have one more question.
Okay.
And it's also for Payton. And it's a little bit deep.
Oh boy.
So Payton, you're a one-man show,
yes.
right? As far as I'm concerned. You ever get lonely in the shop?
Yes.
I'm the same way. So I'm as far as machining goes, I'm pretty much a one-man show, and it, especially when things aren't going too well, like here at work, it's nice to have someone to lean on to share the frustration with. But man, when I'm out there alone and things aren't going good, it becomes lonely. I hope one day I get to hire an employee just so I can have someone to talk to, even if that's all they do. At least someone to share my frustration with. So,
it's tough.
And especially for you. I mean, well, you've worked in some shops before, though, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. I was going to bring that up. My last shop had an MV40, and I programmed in a spree and dealt with post issues. So, like, all the things you were saying, I was just like, "Yep, that's about right."
I remember you said you had programmed an MV on one of the older episodes, but yeah, the spree. Don't get me started. I've used the spree for when I did all my wire EDM stuff. I used a spree, and it was great for that. But that's pretty straightforward. It's not. I mean, mostly 3-axis, a little bit of taper stuff, but mostly 3-axis stuff. So yeah, that was just a random question I thought of, and it's something, especially when things aren't going well. I could use someone to share the frustration with, and if I go into the house and start, screaming and yelling, one, my wife probably doesn't understand what I'm frustrated about because she helps a lot with the marketing, shipping, that kind of stuff, but not too much with the machine tool stuff. So she probably doesn't understand. She probably cares a little bit, but not too much, and that's about it. So on that note, also, just a real quick side note: if you ever want to get a lot of likes on something on Instagram or a lot of views and reach a lot of people, post a video or picture of your significant other running your machine. Holy cow! Talk about I posted a video of my wife running the Mori, and she was running it. She was touching off tools. It got 53,000 views in like the first, I don't know, 2 days.
Wow.
And like, it's by far my highest performing post ever.
Oh my goodness.
So expect to see a lot more of my wife.
I was going to say, so that's why she's been on your feed more.
Hey, the old saying of sex sells, I guess it's true. I mean, holy cow, I could not believe the response. I mean, but yeah, that was just a quick side note that, yeah. So,
well, before we wrap up,
others.
Let's go ahead, plug whatever you need to. You've got your safety razors. Why don't you, your Instagram, your website, all that stuff. Plug everything. We want everybody to, go flood you with some orders.
Yeah, sounds good. So my website is yatesprecision.com. My razors right now are sold out there. You can sign up for a back in stock email. They should be back in stock within the next couple of weeks. If you're wanting a razor right now, go to westcoastshaving.com and just start typing in Yates, and then my razor will pop up there. You buy razors from them, and essentially helps me because they'll reorder. My Instagram at Yates Precision. My wife's Instagram is @Yates Precision, I believe. And then Facebook is just Yates Precision. And then my wife has me roped into starting a YouTube channel, and I guess I'm going to be on video, which, similar to this, it's a little bit outside my comfort zone, but I think it's good to get outside your comfort zone. So I'm going to be starting a YouTube channel, I guess. So look for that upcoming as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I saw that in a post. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I guess I am. Well, see, so one other quick question. I know, Payton, you mentioned quite a bit. Go back to the first episode, and it's cringeworthy when you listen to yourself. Does it get easier? I've even noticed, at the beginning of this episode, this is my first podcast I've ever done. It was a little bit awkward at first, but I kind of, as we went on here, it got a lot easier. I mean, you guys are 27, 28 episodes in. Does it pretty much flow now?
Oh yeah. And then as
definitely.
far as YouTube goes, I mean, put it this way. I've been doing YouTube for 10 years, over half my life, 1,300 plus videos, and it's still hard for me. I mean, granted, compared to my first one, it's piece of cake, but it can be weird at times, but you just got to push through it.
Yeah. So your YouTube stuff, quickly, what do you use to edit your videos?
I use an old Adobe Premiere, and then I also use this new software that I've been playing with, DaVinci Resolve. It's a free software.
Okay.
And luckily I have a friend that uses that in film school, so he can answer my dumb questions for me.
Okay. Yeah, because we're going to be entering that realm here shortly, and that's something I'm not great at and really don't feel like learning, so that's going to all be on my wife.
Yeah, look into that.
Yeah, I didn't even know you had a YouTube channel, so you got to start plugging that a little bit more.
I need to. There's a lot of things on my list.
Is your YouTube channel mainly Lego or machining,
it's
or both?
all Lego, but then I also have one that I haven't really talked about that does have a couple machining videos, and I need to work on that.
All right, what do you use to video?
I've got an old Canon camera, and then I also have like a Canon T4i, and then honestly the iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, anymore, the iPhone camera is just about as good as a camera off the shelf, and I use a GoPro, and I'm pretty happy with it.
There you go. Yeah.
So, all right, I think that's all the questions I had for you guys.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much. And you were so thorough in all your answers. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, sorry if I was too thorough. It's a little long here, but I appreciate you guys having me. I always enjoy talking machining, and I live and breathe it. So anyone wants to reach out to me on Instagram and just talk about machining, I'm all ears, or email me, whatever. I like to help when I can, and you know, I also like to reach out for some help. So
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Go check out Jake Yates, Precision Machine, Instagram, all that stuff. Go buy a razor. Follow us with Intolerance Podcast. We've got T-shirts and stickers coming out real soon because we're real close to 1,000 followers. And I think that'll do for the night. Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right, guys. See you next week.
thank you.